Travelling sometimes can be an absolute ball ache. Me and Ross recently just went to Egypt to go diving off a liverboard at the south of the Red Sea, and getting to the airport itself is so disorganised, it's unbelievable. But the one thing they're all over is seizing my drone through customs. This isn't a new one, this is the drone that got seized, so I was quite lucky to get it back, but I just want to explain to you how much of a headache it actually is. I didn't actually know that drones weren't allowed in Egypt before going there. Going through the airport, there's several stages of scanning which just seems a bit overkill. Very low standard, very sort of poor effort really. You've got so many people in the airport, unfortunately, just trying to justify their jobs, taking your passport off you, doing this and another. Literally the last scanner to go out, leave the airport to go to get our transport to go down to the boat. Scan it through, stop. Camera, 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 camera. Move the bag over to one side, he wants to search it, opens up, sees a drone, grabs it off of me, starts being quite physical with it. Obviously they can take a bit of a beating, but not too much. I mean, the way he was handling it was definitely going to start to cause it some damage. So I went to grab it off of him, that caused a bit of a problem. He took me into this office, it was a very small office, and wanted to write out some paperwork. He was basically seizing it off of me. He then proceeded to start faking writing out a receipt, and I say faking because he was going to do everything he could to make sure that he didn't have to do any paperwork, so this thing would just vanish. Now, I'm not insinuating that there's anything sinister about it, however, the way it all went certainly makes it feel like there was a bit of corruption there and a bit of foul play. He was trying to write out a receipt, clearly didn't want to write out on both sides. Now, they've got no computer systems there where they are, everything's paper versions of it, so it wasn't even carbon copy, it was just two sides of something I couldn't read because I can't read Arabic, but you could tell it was a receipt. There was a section in the middle, he just wanted me to sign for it and that was it, and I said no, you've got to write out both sides. He started to write out one side and asked me name, sign, pointing at it. Every time I leant in to go and sign for it, he'd just almost lean in at the same time to like give me no room. I couldn't understand why he was doing that, and that's when it started to get a little bit heated, because I just threw the pen down and just said, well, I'm not going to sign it if you don't give me any space. In which that point somebody else come in from another room, there was a bit of commotion. Eventually managed to get him to give me some personal space to be able to get in and sign it. Then I started to write down the model number, took the battery out, seen what the model number was, the serial number. As soon as he seen me start to write that down, he was not happy one bit. No, wanted me to stop. But I managed to write that all down, so DJI Mavic Pro 2, the serial number, my name, the date it was taken, and got that on both sides of the paper. Then I signed it, and then he didn't want to give me my copy of the receipt, which was very frustrating, so it took another 5-10 minutes to try and get the receipt off of him. Got the receipt, and I wanted to see the drone was going to be safe, so I took off all the props, made sure the camera was still protected, and took out the battery to try and make it as worthless as possible to them. He said he was going to put a sticker on it or a label, he didn't, and it basically ended up in this store cupboard. That's all it was. It was just like a pine door store cupboard, and there was like a broken printer in there, a few other bits and pieces, and I was thinking, well, I'm going to try my best to get it back, but probably not going to see that back again. Anyway, week's worth of diving, all went great. Would have loved to have the aerial footage, but however, I'm just going to have to use some stock video footage for that. Get back to the airport, spoke to two different people, and they couldn't tell me how I was going to get my drone back. Showed them the piece of paper. One person fortunately then said to me, you need to go up to check-in, just go straight through past the queue, go to the front and say you need to get your drone back out of customs. I did that. One person was then notified, he came over, gave us a bit of a look over, okay, and then he disappeared. So we were waiting for 5-10 minutes. Quite apparent that this bloke wasn't going to come back. So then I went back up to the front of the desk again and said, look, got this piece of paper, you've seen me 10 minutes ago, I need to get my drone back out of customs. Yeah, no worries, yeah. So they get somebody else, comes up, okay, yeah. This big lad comes up, shuffling feet, trousers halfway down his arse. Right, come on, follow me. Took me with this piece of paper through the staff area, through the airport, and I'm going through all these corridors. It's absolutely reeking of cigarette smoke and some other substances as well. There's people littered everywhere. Go all the way through from where we were, which was arrivals, to departures. Funny enough, it's the same area where the drone was taken, and it's the same guy. The same guy's there, and he tries to put on this friendly face. He was so shocked that I was there, tried to fist pump me, and I just went, mate, I want my drone back, and showed me the room. And funny enough, the drone I think was still in the cupboard, but I didn't see it at that point. He then spent the next 5-10 minutes messing around with paperwork, acting like, oh God, I don't know where things are. He then said he needs to go off to find something, so he grabbed my passport and went. I said, no, wherever my passport goes, I go. So he wasn't happy with the fact I was following him. Went to this other room, he got 4 folders out, what the hell they were, I don't know. Brought those folders back in the room, spent probably about half an hour just messing around with paperwork, not really saying anything. Then eventually he left the room, got the drone, come back in. I was like, brilliant. But the drone was actually in the bag, it was sealed up, lead sealed. So then it was another 10 minutes messing around trying to get the wire off to be able to inspect the drone and get it out, seeing that the serial number was there. There was a charge to pay, and it was going to be 25 LE, so worked out that I needed to pay around about 10 euros or 240 Egyptian pounds, which works out about 8 quid. He wanted me to sign a few bits of paperwork before he could give me it, and then he said to pay. And I only had euros, and he got really aggressive then, saying Egyptian pounds, Egyptian pounds. So I had to go all the way back over, through the building again, all the way back over to arrival departures, and get my bank card, take out some Egyptian pounds, go back to him, pay the Egyptian pounds, and then eventually thought, well, this is all done and dusted now. I've got my drone back, I can go back over, go up, meet up with Ross, check in, and then everything's good. Nope. Grabbed my passport again, took us over to departures, and wanted to watch me put the drone in my hold luggage, which I wasn't happy about because it's not well protected in there. They get thrown about, so I wanted to keep it in my hand luggage, and he didn't allow me to do that, so I had to put it in my hold luggage. He then took mine and Ross's passport and walked us off over to another security bit, and he went over to see the don of security. There was one guy that was there who had a stupid amount of stars and insignias all over his epaulets. He was like out here with his rank. But there's another guy there in this cheap, weird looking purple sort of suit jacket, and he was very nervous to talk to this guy, and he needed permission to allow me to then get on the flight. So anyway, this guy gives him the Mishi, okay, yeah. And so we basically left from there, and I'm thinking, right, now we can go and check in. Oh no, he's now gone another way. So I'm now following this guy who's got my passport, and he takes us over to the security again. So now he wants me to hand the drone that's been in quarantine for 1 week with them. He wants to give me it to the policeman for him to do a drug swab on it. I'm like, then I'm thinking, well, what have you planted on it? So they swab it, put it through a machine, it comes up okay, but then there's a massive conversation that goes on for 15 minutes about whether they should give me it or not, and I'm thinking, in a minute I'm just going to walk off and just not take it. But managed to get it back again after that point. Then I think I'm going to go to check in and sort all that out. And no, he's got other ideas yet again. He wants to now act as if he's doing us a favour and check us in. And so he barges past everyone in the queue, takes us to the front. He's still got hold of our passports, so we can't do anything other than follow this bloke. Then he takes us through to the next bit of security. The next bit of security delayed massively, and I thought for 1 second, this guy's at the very final second he's going to cancel us. But anyway, he stamped it, and after all that, this bloke wanted to get all smiley and happy and shake my hand and everything. I just wasn't having any of it. So then we just go through the security that followed after that. So nightmare. So long story short, no drones in Egypt. Just take your surface footage, take your underwater footage, and have a good time without having to go through the headache of customs, because it is not enjoyable one bit.